In the last video, I talked to you about gratitude and the gap that I feel there is between expressing gratitude, thinking of ourselves as grateful people, and actually internalizing, getting that feeling within us to where we actually feel what it is to be grateful. So if you're curious, go back one video. Maybe I'll post it at the end. I want to talk to you a little about one of the challenges to gratitude and one of the challenges to happiness, which is known as the gap theory of happiness. That means the gap between what we have and what we want, what we think will make us happier. And by the way, it works. We know that if we want that thing and we get it, it does make us happier, but temporarily, usually for minutes or hours or maybe days. So that's the idea. And then we're back on that climb up that ladder after the next buzz, what we think will make us happier. That's called, also referred to as the hedonistic treadmill, this idea that by feeding our wants, our desires, we're going to inherently become happy, but we realize it's a treadmill that never stops moving. We're always craving something else. So as you might imagine, philosophical traditions like Judaism, Buddhism, Hasidism, particularly in Judaism, and Stoicism in the ancient Roman tradition, give you ways to think about how to just get off the treadmill altogether and find a way not to need it, to find contentment. Maybe if we don't call it happiness, but understand contentment, it gives us a sense of being more placid in ourselves. So consider this idea. If you imagine, do a negative visualization, that's the term for it. Visualize yourself not having something that you love or want, and see how that'll change the next experience of that thing. Visualize yourself as not having dinner ahead of you or lunch ahead of you, or that person to greet you or to hug you or to smile to you or to be in your life. Imagine for a moment, which is challenging, maybe even painful temporarily, not having that which makes you happy. And then see after that visualization what your experience is of that person, their phone call, their hug, their caress, the food that you eat, whatever it is that you experience. I've said this to kids as well. Imagine in the morning not taking for granted that you're going to be able to hop out of bed and grab clothes that are in a closet full of clothes, and go to a fridge that's full of food, and choose food and then be able to swallow it, and then be able to digest it, and then be able to make fuel out of it. All those things that we just take for granted. In fact, imagine right now, as I've said to kids and adults, that you can't just scratch your nose just because you will it, because you want it. So we know people, all of us in our lives, who can't do the things that we take for granted. Let me give you another exercise for this week that might be helpful to you. It's a negative visualization technique, and it involves imagining that this is the last time. And I did this the other day on my daily hike. Usually my wife is with me. This time I was on my own. I was walking through the park, the same route that I take every day. And I suddenly said to myself, imagine if this is the last time that I can do this for whatever reasons. Maybe I don't have the physical ability. Maybe I'm blocked off from having access to this walk, or I don't have the vision, the ability to see what I see, or smell or hear what I hear. And just having that brief internal conversation made it an awesome experience of taking in the next 10 minutes of a hike. I looked at things differently and more deeply, and with a greater sense of wanting to hold on to them, at least in my mind and in my memory. I looked around and I smelled what I could smell in that state park. And I looked at the birds, I listened to the quails running on the trail. And I thought to myself, if this is the last time, God forbid, but if this is the last time I have the mobility, I have the ability, I have the access to this experience, what do I need to do in this moment? I also think it helps us because we assume entitlements. We assume that we'll always be able to do everything that we do now. But as we grow older and as we live through a pandemic and as we become wiser, we realize there will in fact be a last time for every single thing that we do and enjoy or dread, but there will one day be a last time. So with that in mind, I hope you can take that as an exercise to bring greater contentment, greater appreciation, greater heartfelt gratitude, and happiness to your week.